on, something's wrong. We have too many destinations. Oh, actually, we are live. Who cares? Interesting. Well, good day, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It seems that we are live, contrary to what StreamYard was telling me, which is so weird.
Yeah, because I'm able to hear some background noises. You repeating.
Absolutely. That was interesting. Okay, so we can start today by introducing ourselves. My name is Laurent Doguin. I'm the head of DevRel Couchbase, and we do DevRel stuff with a bunch of very cool people like Ben Greenberg or with Shive. Shive, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, I'm Shivai. I'm the DevRel from the APAC region at Couchbase, and we have been having wonderful response so far with this entire live streams, and of course, keeping in the entire wave of the AI with there's so much of uh, love that has been given to Cursor, which is a very popular code editor these days. That's an AI powered code editor, and Vercel V0 and Claude, which is one of the best large language models these days for being able to do programming. So yeah, I mean, I think like there's been a lot of people have been now building applications and quickly prototyping with that. So of course, like our goal in the first couple of these live streams was to show how you can build applications powered with Couchbase and our SDKs and still be able to quickly prototype, because of course you get a lot of really great amazing features within Cursor with the auto-completion and free access to Claude and GPT-4, all these like latest large language models from different providers. And you can set up an account, and of course the biggest one of them being the free tier. So we showed in the previous two streams on how you can set up your free tier account on Couchbase and build projects free of cost. And of course, like earlier there was a 30-day trial, but now these are going to be there for perpetuity. So that's like really great if you are having a personal project. And the project that we're building is also like a great example where we showcase that how you can build a chat with your docs app, where you would basically upload a PDF file, or I mean, of course you can add more types of files, and then you can very easily use them, store them inside of the Couchbase vector store with the help of LangChain, and then now how you can actually chat with them. So a really good use case over here is something that one of the world's probably one of the world's best DevRel stages. He has a website. He gives a lot of talks everywhere, and he has basically built a search where you can search for his talks, and you can give a description of his talk, and that talk description, based on that you'll be able to see your blogs. So like in fact, like in our team, Ben, who is one of the lead DevRels at Couchbase, actually wrote an article on how you can use vector search with your blogs, so that now you don't just are able to search your blogs based on the keyword, but also the semantic meaning related to that particular blog. So based on your description of the blog that you're giving, or the title, like you expand the capabilities of search. So you essentially now allow for semantic search rather than just the keyword matching search. So that's like one of the major use cases that we were showing as part of our demo. So today's the part 3, and hopefully the final part. Last time we had a lot of interesting conversations between myself and Ben, where we, I think, discussed for the first like 20-25 minutes around this entire concept of retrieval augmented generation. But today, hopefully, like we'll be able to spend much more time into actually writing the code for our last remaining piece, which was just basically like the implementation for being able to actually have like a fully working chat app. So far, like what we have been able to accomplish is the ability to actually parse a PDF document and then store it inside of the Couchbase vector store. So yeah, anything probably, Laurent, that you might want to add to it?
Not much. I've been adding links to our different chats, so you should all see a link to github.com/couchbase-example,
Yeah.
which is we have most of our examples, and there's already a bunch of LangChain and chat with PDF example, and it's not. I mean, it's LangChain and it's what OpenAI, and we have Bedrock, and we
Okay.
have examples with many models. So you can already take a look at this. It's written in Python, but like this is what we're doing today. It's going to be Node, it's going to be Vercel, it's going to be using Anthropic Claude, and it's going to be using Cursor, which is the AI dedicated ID. So,
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
you want to share your screen? You want to jump right in?
Yes, yeah, because today like we have to accomplish a lot, and I think it'll be better to jump right in. And again, I think like we'll be sharing links to the previous two streams, so in case you are joining
I
us
can do that.
live, yeah, so
Absolutely.
we'll share the links to the previous two streams. Perfect. So
All
let's
right.
jump right in, and let me start to share my screen. Hopefully, everyone should be able to. Okay, perfect. So we have added this to the stream. So now, just a quick reminder for everyone. So of course, we are of course going to be using a free tier, and right before this particular stream, I just turned on my cluster again. So of course, if you are using the free tier, then just keep in mind that in case your free tier cluster has been not used for uh, more than 72 years, sorry, 72 hours, not 72 years,
I mean,
72
why
hours.
not? Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that is a wordplay, but yes, 72 hours, then it will get deactivated, right? So if you want your cluster to stay active, just ensure that you keep it regularly, you're using it from time to time. But of course, if it does get inactive, you can just sign into your Capella cluster and just go ahead and use these three dots that you see over here, and just click on turn on the cluster. And of course, now it is turned on right in time for the workshop. So perfect. Now, of course, the last time what we did was the thing that we where we left, and this is just for everyone, for everyone's perspective. So we created our entire code that we wrote for uh, being able to, of course, take our PDF file. So we accept our PDF file as a form data, and then we parse it so that now we can get the individual characters from our PDF file. And first thing that we were doing was to store it inside of our publics folder so that we can now fetch it, and then we use an inbuilt library within for which we have an npm package for langchain, so that we can actually load a PDF document, right? Because langchain supports different types of files. So whether you have like CSV files or PDF files or docs files, it has dedicated loader so that it can actually split your document for you. And then last time you also, of course, touched upon why and why is it important to have a good chunking strategy, right? So the reason again being, from in case you missed the last time, was that by having different chunk sizes, essentially each and every chunk will have a certain number of characters after your entire PDF has been split into different parts. And depending on the kind of embedding model that you use, or the vector database that you use, right? If you have like, let's say, a too small of a chunk or too a very large chunk, then that might actually end up affecting the entire accuracy of your vector search query that you run. Because if you have a very very large chunk, then of course the embedding itself will be very large. And of course there is a limit. For example, in Couchbase we have a limit of 2084 as the embedding size that can be saved. Like that's the maximum amount of embeddings like per document that can be saved, right? So just something to keep in mind when you are. And of course, like also having like a relative chunk size is also equally important, because sometimes you might have a very large PDF file, sometimes you might have a smaller PDF file, so you might be able to then change. But of course, keeping it specific based on like what is the estimated size of your document will depend. So that's something that you can always experiment with, and try to set it as the best based on your use case that you might have. So this is something to keep in mind. and then we split our documents. What we did was we, of course, used the OpenAI embeddings for which you would require an OpenAI API key. If you don't want to spend money on like generating embeddings, one of the great things about LangChain is that we actually have a lot of different embeddings or embedder. So we have like a number of different LangChain embedders that you can use. So embedders, like we have dedicated embedding models, including Olama, which allows you to actually run these embeddings completely locally. So you don't actually need a dedicated OpenAI account. The reason we're using OpenAI is like it has a bunch of different types of embedding models. So in this case, the embedding model that we are using is one of the text embeddings. So depending on what kind of application you might have, whether it's a image or text based, we have different types of embeddings, right? So we have text based, we have image based embeddings, which you can leverage. And so you can also use like Gemini embeddings, you can use OpenAI embeddings. Again, there are a number of different providers that are available for you to use, which can be used to generate the embeddings for your input text. And then we just simply connected to Couchbase with our Couchbase config, and we went ahead and used this Couchbase vector store from documents, which is essentially taking all of our docs with our embeddings and then storing it inside of Couchbase. And one thing to also then keep in mind is that when you have set up your cluster, you also need to set up your vector index. So in this case, like if I go to my database over here, if I go to the data tools, I will be able to see this PDF vector search index. So this is used specifically to define your vector index, and of course that refers to what is that specific document. So inside of your scope and collections, what is that specific field that is being used as your embedding? And then you define your scope, collection, and the database that is used for the search index, so that you can then, whenever you're making a search query, you can make it as part of, because the vector search inside of Couchbase is part of the full text search product inside of Couchbase. So that's why we have to create this vector index, and you can store this vector index as your environment variable. So that's a quick overview of what we were able to accomplish last time. Now, in today's session, where we kind of left off was basically, and let me zoom in a bit further. So where we left was, we want to now essentially work on our PDF. So of course, now we have been able to store our entire PDF as embeddings inside of our Couchbase vector store. So what we now want to accomplish is creating a chat interface where we can now chat with our LLM, in this case, like any large language model that you might want to use. Based on the content that is there inside of our PDF. And we'll just kind of left off over here with, like the steps that we'll basically follow today. So we'll basically create a RAG pipeline. So this, why we say a pipeline is because it has a number of different steps, starting off with, of course, the data ingestion part, which is as soon as you upload a PDF, it gets added to the vector store. Now you send a prompt to the LLM. Now that prompt basically is now sent to the Couchbase vector store, where we use the retriever to fetch or retrieve the nearest embeddings that we have based on the input prompt query that you have sent, and then we pass it to our LangChain RAG chain, and we generate the response from our LLM as part of the RAG chain to give you the result, like based on the question or the query that you have asked. It. So yeah, I think Laurent, we are pretty much like well set. Should we proceed with the implementation part?
Yes, absolutely. So just to recap, last time you used Cursor and V0 and Cloud to get most of that code running
Yeah.
like generated.
Yeah. So basically what we used V0 was to generate our entire front end. So we have shown it, and I think like we should be able to show it quickly in case I can run this. So npm run dev. So the UI that you will see for this application on localhost 3000 is basically generated from our, so this particular UI that you see has been generated from V0, which is the tool from Vercel.
So now all you have to do, quote unquote, is to plug your backend into, build that backend and plug it into the front end, right?
Exactly. And of course,
Right.
like since we are using Next.js, there's not technically like a express server that we're running. So our logic and of course our endpoint. So we will have an endpoint to connect with the chat that is being written inside of the API folder, which is where we are writing our main logic. So we have already written one of the backend logics for the ingestion of our PDF, and the next one is creating our entire chat interface. So for this, of course, we'll essentially, you can think of this in two ways, that when we are formatting our messages, so we'll have the messages for the user and the messages that are coming from the AI, from the LLM. So you can think of it in this way, that the high level approach would be that once we have imported all of our dependencies, we can think of our entire system of comprising of two different types of roles. One, that of a user, where the user actually is the human, and we will basically send a new message inside of our human message, and the response received from the LLM can be thought of the assistant, because that's the assistant that's helping us to actually generate the response for us. So that's what we'll basically accomplish in this particular task. So yeah, I think we should be good to go. If that's fine, we can proceed with the application.
Yeah, I don't think we have any questions, so I guess you can proceed.
All right, perfect.
But yes, if
Okay.
anybody asks question, we're on the chats, so let us know.
Yes. And of course, like this is a very interactive stream. So if you have any questions, do let us know. So first thing that we'll do is we'll just go ahead and do our basic set of imports. So in this case, as you see, right, that first thing that we can import is import both of our Couchbase vector store. So in this case, it would be the Couchbase vector store. And of course, the other one which we need to import is the vector store arguments, because this is the thing where we pass our things such as our all of these have been already covered over here. So basically, like the main things to keep in mind is that whenever you are using the args, you have to define that what are the different configs. So in this case, you are passing your cluster details, because the vector store args will be used for actually connecting to your Couchbase cluster, fetching that specific vector embedding index, and what type of embedding you're actually using. So all of that will be stored over here. So in this case, you see that we automatically receive our input from the automated like completion, and it's fairly intelligent. We were pretty impressed, like both Ben and I were pretty impressed by the auto completion feature that is already present inside of the cloud, inside of Cursor. And of course, like it's not perfect. Like we ran into a few issues based on this, judging that the response generated from or the auto completion code. So one thing to again keep in mind is that you always have to be aware of the code that is being generated from the auto completion, because of course, like the way that it works is based on your current code that you're writing, but it may or may not have context of your entire repository, right? So for example, last time the the like it helped me to auto generate this entire code for my config, so being able to like process all of the environment variables, but it didn't get the environment variables correctly. So I had to manually go and correct it, like after having to debug for like a couple of minutes. So something to just keep in mind is that use it for cases where that yes, it's probably like a more mundane task, but you'll still have to write the code logic for whatever you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah,
So let's
remember that Gen AI is just the autocomplete of your phone keyboard, but like much, much, much
exactly.
better.
Yeah,
So it
much
works
better.
with what people use all the time. So
Exactly.
connection
And
is a good one.
yeah, exactly. That's something to keep in mind. Now, the other thing would be that yes, we can import our OpenAI embeddings. And one thing that this time we'll probably do a bit different is that we are going to be importing our chat OpenAI. So this is like within LangChain. Again, this is for everyone who is not aware. So within LangChain, we have something known as LLMs, and these are simply like as simple as that you give them a prompt and they generate a response for you. But since we are building a chat system, right? So in case of a chat system, we are going to be using chat model, which is a bit different than LLMs. In this case, what we do is that we have each and every response getting generated as a sequence of inputs and return messages. which can also then be used for maintaining an entire chat history. So if you were to, like, let's say, ask the LLM that, based on the question that I asked previously, what do you suggest something? So these are not just simply a sequence of responses that you will generate one off. Like, if you have an entire chat interface, you're going to be using the chat OpenAI. So this is one thing to keep in mind, because generally we will use something like as simple as an LLM call. So you could just do like import OpenAI from LangChain OpenAI, or like import OpenAI from LangChain community /LLMs. But here we are having a proper chat interface. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then we will also import our create Couchbase. And I think the we can probably just copy over this one over here. So it was create Couchbase cluster. So this will be used for us to connect to our Couchbase cluster once we authenticate it. Now, one thing, an additional thing that we'll do is that we want to showcase our messages as the human message, um, and we also want to basically stream our response. So Vercel actually does have both of these. So we can show that as our response is actually streaming. So we can show the message as the Vercel chat message. So this actually comes from the Vercel AI SDK. So we have the Vercel AI SDK, which is a dedicated SDK that has been built for Vercel for Next.js. And this allows you to use the templates, and it automatically has methods for being able to stream your response, and just be just provide you ready to use interfaces whenever you're designing any sort of an AI application. So this is a great SDK that you can use, especially if you're building a Next.js or even a React or a Svelte application. So this is like more specific for front end side, but like if you are probably using like Angular, then of course it might not be that helpful. We will use this over here to quickly just stream our response. And so of course, like here, like with this message, what will happen is that we'll be able to format our responses as like the human message and our chat message, right? So that's something that we'll use. And also, if you want to stream the response, so we have the streaming text response, which is used to stream the response from the LLM as it is actually generated. And then of course we can also import, like specifically we'll have like human message and AI message. So this is coming directly from LangChain in order to identify what is each and every query being sent by the human, and what is the specific one that's coming from the AI. And then of course we'll have a regular chat message. This is just object that is used to describe that, whenever we are generating a response, whether it is a human message or an AI message, we'll be able to import it. Now, again, a couple of things that are specific for RAG, to accomplish RAG chain. So we'll be accomplishing this with the help of LangChain, because we are, of course, like creating a LangChain. So we will also basically have a chat template. So in this case, what we'll do is that we'll do import a chat prompt chat template. If I'm not mistaken, it should be over here. And essentially, like of course, like since we are going to be providing a dedicated template that, hey, you are an AI chatbot and you are going to be parsing this particular input text. So we'll be giving it a dedicated template for it to provide us like better response capability, right? Of course, otherwise there's always a chance for it to hallucinate. So we will give it all of this. So this is like again more specific for creating like a RAG based application, and not necessarily like something that's related to Couchbase. But these are things that you need to specifically keep in mind when you are using like the retrieval augmented chain from LangChain. And then of
So
course
sorry, is there anything, any specificity to that template? It's just the fact that it's going to be a conversation, it's going to be a chat. It's not going to be, as you said, just a one-off message to OpenAI, but you're actually having a conversation. Is there anything that's specific to
Yeah,
it?
so we can actually add more specific things. So for example, of course, like this is more specific to LangChain itself, that of course, like we have the concept of prompt engineering, right? So we can have different type of prompts. We can have zero shot prompting, where you just don't give any sort of context to your LLM, and you just say that here's my query, generate response. But we have few shot prompting where you ask the AI model to wear the hat of a particular role. So in this case, it could be a role of like you are a travel agent, you are an expert documentation reader, or you're an expert coder. So that like if I try to ask it certain questions which are probably a bit out of context of the type of the kind of application that I'm building, then I can give it more specific type of responses that I expect it to generate. And I can, by using the prompt template, I can also actually ask the AI to generate the response in a specific manner, because otherwise, like, of course, because of the non-deterministic nature of these LLMs, it can generate responses in different types of messages, right? So what we want is for it to always give me like a consistent type of response, and response that's grounded to the type of activity that's happening. And in this case, like, it should generate response just related to the PDF document rather than giving me a response that's random in nature. So primarily, like, this prompt template, the stat prompt template and the prompting techniques are used for us to give like specific type of responses, or like modify the type of response that's expected from the model. So I hope that kind of
Yes, absolutely.
And now, of course, since we are dealing with LangChain, so additional thing that we'll of course look at is like retrieval and generation. So in this case, like, we'll be specifically using the RAG chain. So for example, we have like the text splitter, which we'll still use because we'll be splitting our text. We already did that inside of the last session, but of course, this time what we'll do is we'll actually create our, oh, by the way, I just got we have reached, so there's something to keep in mind. This is like happening live, but we have actually completed our unlimited access to autocomplete, for which you'll have to actually get the pro version. Like, this is something to keep in mind whenever you use a cursor. Like, it does come with free trial. So I think, like, for now we can actually turn off the autocomplete, because we actually, like, it was probably like a hindrance at some times. But in case you run out of this, what you can do is either you can purchase a pro subscription of Cursor, or you can perhaps also just go ahead and create a new account. Like, that's something that I do as like a kind of a hack. So for example, right now, I think I was I was logged in with this particular email. I could probably log out and log in again with my personal email account. So if I just sign in, hopefully I might have access to the free because I think they refill your account every month. So if I quickly just log in with my Gmail account, I should probably get that again. Let me just use my personal email account over here, and I should probably, yes, I have access. So if I just quickly sign in, I can quickly just sign in, and hopefully this should yeah, perfect. So I should have access again. So this is a quick hack. In case you don't want to pay, you can probably use another side account that you might have, and very easily get back the access. So that's something to just keep in mind. So now what we'll do is that we'll use the create retrieval chain. So again, this is specifically for being able to use the retrieval chain that we'll have. And in this case, I think it's giving us an error. So perhaps again, like, this is an autocomplete. So if I can quickly look at the documentation on LangChain on how do we actually do this import for LangChain JS. So let's just quickly take a look. So in this case, if I search quickly, so function create retrieval chain, this is what we need. So let's see how we import it. So import, let's see. So import retrieval chain from LangChain. Okay. So we just have to use this instead. All right. So let's hopefully this should be fine. Let's see. All right. Still getting this issue. Let's just cross check to see. I think we might probably have to import this, if I'm not mistaken, because we are using it for the first time. But we'll probably see, like, why is this, because it's supposed to be this create retrieval chain, so it looks fine. But we can probably come back to this later. Like, if it's a requirement that we might have to perhaps retrieve this, then we can come back to this later. But we'll also just import our document. So the document that of course will be used, so we can import that. And finally, I think we should be good to go, because we have imported the most important things such as our vector store, our uh, of course. And then we also want to import probably one last thing, which is that you should also be aware of your history. So we have a dedicated create history for our being like just being aware of the history. So we will just import that as well, and I think this should be good to go. So let's proceed now. So now what we'll do is that we will create a function where we can basically format our messages. So essentially what we want to do is we want to basically create a function where we are able to actually format our messages that we'll have, right? Because we'll have, as I mentioned, that we have the messages from the user and we have messages from the AI. So we'll be using this chat Vercel chat message interface in order to actually format these messages that will show up in our chat UI. So we can just define a function over here which will be just format Vercel messages. So in this case, what we are going to be having is that, of course, the type of the message will be that of a Vercel chat message. And of course, like this is probably like a good code where what we want to do is that we'll have a map of like we'll be returning a map of all of the messages based on whether the role is that of a user or that of the AI, right? So this is probably a good one. We can probably also just not necessarily like we can return either this as a message, or since we're going to be using the chat message, we can also return that. So instead of like we can probably comment this out for a minute, and we can also rethink of this in way that in case, let's say that if the message is that from the user, so if the messages are actually, so basically the role of the message, so if the message dot role messages dot role, if that is from the user, in that case what we can do is that we can of course just have a return statement that it will be part of the human message, right? So in this case it will be message.content, else it will be that of the AI. So in this case, like what we'll do is that we can have the elif condition that in case elif the so in this case the messages dot role is that of the AI. So in this case, we are basically saying that that of the assistant. So then we will say that that message will go into the AI message. So again, this is something to keep in mind that we are essentially having two different kind of roles, and I think like there is probably not defined in the message. We might just have to look at what's causing that particular issue, but the idea over here is simple, that we are having two different type of messages. One is that of the role of a user, and the other one is that of the assistant, right? So this will be else if. Perfect. Okay. And finally, like what we'll do is that we can just probably have an else statement finally, that in case like we can just give like a warning over here from console. So I'll just give a console dot warn, and we can just say that the message that you passed is not matching properly. So we can just say message not that of human or AI or the assistant. So this is a basic formatting. And then finally, what we'll do is that we'll now return an entire chat message that has content from both the user and the assistant. So we'll just simply go ahead and do return new chat. So we'll basically have this chat message, and this will basically contain messages from both the user and the so we'll have the content over here, which will be the message.content, which is the content over here, and then we'll also pass the role. So over here, the role over here is that of the user and the assistant. So in this case, we will pass the messages.role. So what is essentially happening over here is that this chat message is what contains the response and the query that has been generated. Like this is for us to generate this on our Vercel, right? This is what we'll basically show inside of our chat app, inside of with the help of the AI SDK that we are using from Vercel. So is there any question, by the way, Laurent, so far? Or
Not yet. What's with the squiggles? I don't know, Matt. Can you elaborate on what's with the squiggles?
Oh, what is the squiggles? I'm not aware what's the squiggles or what's that about. Not not completely aware. uh, but yeah, I think this is like what we're going to be using, and hopefully we should be able to resolve this. But yes, so we are pretty much like done with our first part, where we will basically now format our messages that we are getting from Vercel and use it inside of our chat interface. So we by the way, like if you're not already aware, like we have the actual page layout for our chat. So this is where we are going to be rendering our messages, and we are going to be using our API. So this is what we covered the last time, that we are going to be using an API for chat, where based on the response, like based on whether we have the user actually submitting. So as soon as the user clicks on enter, this is where the user's question, right? The query will actually go into the role of that of the user, and the response that we generate from the AI, in this case from our retrieval chain, will go into the response that we see. And we'll basically maintain an entire message list which has the messages from both the user and the response that we get from the LLM. So this to keep in mind. So now I think we can, yeah. Sorry, Laurent, was there a question?
Right. No, no. So Matt was referring to the errors that you currently have because there's a bunch of things that are
Yeah,
underlined in red. So how do you plan to fix
yeah.
to
I think
address that?
yeah, and in that case, like probably it's a good time where we could also like ask the AI like this to kind of see whether, I think like it's probably some like import that we're probably missing. Let's also like probably see, because of course we are seeing this right now. Oh, you see, like that's the in like the thing right now, that it just says that Anthropic is experiencing a partial outage right now. So that's why you should always not be completely reliant, because these LLM providers, because they are receiving so much amount of input, like they have a tendency to be outage. Like there's a lot of times that OpenAI will also probably go on an outage. But I think here it's being able to see that we are getting we are trying to access the role directly into the array. So we might have to iterate over the array and then use this. Okay. So we still need that particular messages map, which actually makes sense. So if I apply this, hopefully this should work. So let's actually apply this. So I can probably copy and let's see. Okay. Uh, I will go ahead and just paste this, and yeah, I mean now it does not give me an issue. So in this case it's returning this entire map of messages, so hopefully now should be fine. So we have the role, but actually it removed the role if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so in this case this should be fine. So I can also actually I think it just copied it 2 times, so this should go back over here. Okay, perfect. So this should be good enough, I guess. If I copy this over and remove all of this. So, okay, yeah, looks good. So we can proceed further now. We can probably look at why these imports are giving an issue. Probably we might have to actually import them. We can import them once we actually go into the retrieval step, right? So next step that we'll do is that we will now start to create our actual code for our post request. So we have defined the post request inside of our chat app, that will of course require a chat ID and our chat. So let's go ahead and now create our actual function. So we will basically create an async function over here, um, and we can probably keep the name as post over here, and then of course we will have a request over here of the type request. And now what we'll do is that basically in this particular function, sorry, I was using it as a Python. So in this case, now let's go ahead. All right. So now, in this case, what we are going to be doing is that we will first get the body. So in this case, the body would be the question that has been sent, and then we will append it to our messages, and then we would get the current message, and we will convert into an embedding, and then from that embedding, we will then pass it to our history prompt, and where we will use the retrieval step from Couchbase in order to generate the response. So the first thing to do over here is that once we have gotten our body, so let's just define our body. And for some reason, I think we have stopped getting the autocomplete, which is fine. So in this case, what we want is we'll use an await to get the body over here. And in this case, like the body that we're getting is from request.json actually. Yeah. So we are waiting for the request, and this is the user input that is being sent. Then what we'll do is that we'll define our messages. So this is the messages array that we are going to be keeping. And over here, what will basically happen is that we want this to be part of our body, and we'll simply like add a logic where we want the capability to, of course, append all of the messages, whether it's the user input or the response getting generated from our AI, to be part of this particular body array, right? So in this case, we'll just keep it like if it is empty, then if it is not there, then we'll just create an empty array, right? So this will help us that if you are creating a new chat from scratch, then we will just initialize it as an array. So we are just using a ternary operator. In case if it already exists, then well and good. We'll append it to our existing messages array. Otherwise, we will create a new one. And then we can also just have like basically a if condition that in case there is no message already existing. So like if you are actually sending like a empty message, then we can just provide like a simple try catch block, or just a statement that in case your message actually does not have any length. So in case your message length is actually not there because you are trying to send an empty message, in that case what we can do is we can just simply return that we can throw a new error. So we can basically throw a new error, which is that you should not have an empty you're basically trying to send an empty message. So we can just have this. So empty message. Perfect. So now we are pretty much at the point where we have our message. Now what we can do is that we can format this particular message in order to have like showcase our entire chat history. So we can probably touch upon that a bit later, but we can also now talk more about getting that current message that we have and then passing it inside of our embedding. And so this is basically the step where the user has sent the message, and then we'll actually prompt it to our Couchbase vector store to fetch our nearest embeddings that we want to actually capture. So basically what we'll do is that we will now get this as part of our current message content. So in this case, like what we're going to be doing is we will pass our message into the message array, and then we'll retrieve the content, and then we will use the embedding to generate the embeddings for us. So let's go ahead and like create like a variable which is just getting our current messages. So we can define basically a variable named as like, let's say, get current message content, and this would basically be part of our messages. So it will fetch all of our current messages. And what we'll basically do is that when it fetches our messages, we want the content from that message. So this is like coming directly from our format Vercel messages function that we created, because here we are basically fetching our content that we have, right? So here we'll just define this, and then we'll just have like a try block. And we are doing this necessarily in a try block so that we ensure that in case for some reason if our model that we are going to be using is not functional, then we can of course like return an error. So in this case, what we'll do is that we'll now define our model. So in this case, our model will be our chat OpenAI model. So in this case, the chat OpenAI, and we'll just initialize this. And in this case, like we'll just initialize this over here. Let's see what's the issue. So type of chat OpenAI is not callable. Oh yeah, we'll have to use new. Perfect. So okay, perfect. Then we'll also have to define our embeddings. So in this case, we can just copy that probably from over here because we have already defined. So let's just use this. So we also have to pass our OpenAI key. So we have defined our embeddings. Now, the next step is that we also want to basically define our entire history. So here, like this is where we are basically going to be giving the prompt that the system is going to give this conversation. So we will now generate an assistant where we will only answer questions related to the actual PDF, and it should actually not make up any content that's not actually part of either the chat history or the PDF file that we have, right? So we'll basically define our entire history prompt. So it should be like basically this is where we'll say that it's the history aware prompt, and here we'll use our chat prompt template that we have defined. So in this case, we'll use this chat prompt template. So this is again useful when you want to ground the results that you're getting from the AI. So in this case, like we'll use the chat prompt template, and I think if we specifically look over here, which is this chat prompt template, if we look at the docs quickly, so we can also look at how we can actually use it, right? So when we want to use like the chat prompt template, like we can define the messages. So this is what we are basically going to be using, where we define that what's the role of the user. So of course the user will have the input, and then we will have the AI, and what is the expected response that we expect from the AI, right? So that is what we are going to be defining over here. So in this case, like what we'll do is that from the messages that we get from the AI, this is what we'll store inside of our entire system. So now inside of this prompt template that we want to store, the first thing that we want is that we can also like have like a basic placeholder for our messages. So we'll just define a new like messages placeholder over here. So we'll use this, and we'll just say that this is our entire chat history for our system. Now, the next thing would be that we want to, of course, define the chat role of the user and that of the AI. So in this case, like we'll have the chat role of the user. In this case, like what we are passing is basically what is expected from the user. So of course, we expect the user to provide us the input, so which is the input query that the user will be sending. Then what we'll do is, I think like yeah, I was missing a comma here. Perfect. And then the next thing that we'll do is that we will also give certain context related to this particular. So again, we can provide an additional query over here, which is so this is all, by the way, part of the prompt. So we are saying that the user will provide their input, then we are providing some additional system prompt over here, which is, for example, that you are a helpful bot which answers questions related to the PDF, and also just answers questions from the PDF text. So this is going to be the user. In this case, we can close this again. So again, this is important whenever you want specific responses and you don't want your AI responses to actually hallucinate. So this will serve us well in terms of setting our user journey. So in this case, like I think this should be good enough for us to clear this. Now we can also basically define our answer template. So in this case, like if you want to actually define a proper answer template, we can also do that. Like if you want if you want the response to be generated based on like a specific type of query, so we can also define our answer template. So let's define our answer template over here. So in this case, like what we are going to be doing over here is we'll be defining that, hey, you are a helpful assistant, and if you don't know the answer, you can just say that you don't know instead of like making it up. And then in addition, what we are doing is that we'll provide our context, because like in this answer, what we expect the response to be is that of course we are, since this is a retrieval augmented chain, we are also providing the context that we'll get from our vector store when we use the retrieval, right? So in this case, we can just simply say that are you are a helpful bot. So I think we can just do this over here. So in this case, like what we want is, I think I was using the wrong bracket. Okay. So you are a helpful bot which answers questions related to the PDF. And then what we can do is that we can actually provide it an additional context. So here I'll basically provide an object for context, and I'll close this, And here, of course, we will basically be passing our context that we receive after we have basically gotten our, we have been able to retrieve our documents from our retrieval step that we'll also define later in the session. So we have provided this particular context, and we can just probably finish it off by saying that please, just answer, please answer in a concise manner. So please answer the query in a concise manner. So this is, of course, like an important step when you want your, because like consider an example where you are like, let's say, running a support bot. So instead of like it generating a response that's completely randomized every time, by giving it this particular answer template and this message prompt, you are able to like let the AI generate, or the LLM generate, a response that's always in this given format. So this allows you to ensure that your responses are always of the similar format and style. By the way, like Laurent, do we have any questions so far?
We
Uh,
don't. I was gonna ask you, like, we have like five-ish minutes left. So do you think we
hmm.
should? Do you think we'll be able to finish, or if not, do we fix the compilation problem and try it right now and see what we have left to fix?
Yeah, because I think like we are still like we still have to define our bucket and our cluster, our config, and then
Mm.
finally like we also have to create our retriever step. So in that retriever step, this is where we'll basically then actually send in our documents and then pass it as part of our entire retriever chain.
Right.
So I think we can probably then also like ask the AI like if perhaps it can do that for us, so we can like let's see like if we are able to complete that. But right now we are just pretty much at the end of defining our prompt, like how that prompt should look like, and then we can proceed further. So I think like we should be able to complete probably if it goes 5 or 10 minutes above.
All
All right.
right.
Yeah. So the next step is that we'll now define our answer prompt. So in basically we have defined our template. Now, of course, we just want to pass the template that we just created. So this will be important when we are generating the response within our rack chain. So in this case, what we'll do is that we'll again use our chat prompt template, similar to how we did it for the user prompt. So again, we'll use the from messages function, and here we'll pass our we'll just pass over here the couple of things. So one is our, so in this case like in the first one we had the user, and then this we'll define our system prompt. So in this case, in the system we'll simply just pass our answer template so that it always generates the answer in this format, right? So again, this is important for us to ensure that it always passes this as part of our history. And then we'll just create a new message object over here so that it's part of our chat history. And we'll finally pass our so this should be closed, and we'll finally pass our user input. So in this case, we can just quickly copy this over. So these are the expected response that based on the user response each and every time we are basically generating this answer prompt. And now I think we are good to go. So once we are basically finally, we can close this out. So this should be good enough. Yeah, perfect. So now what we'll do is that we will now, of course, start to define our bucket. So similar to last time, we can actually copy over all of this because we'll be again going ahead and defining all of our, because we'll be actually connecting to the Couchbase cluster. So we can, in fact, like just copy over our function over here where we are basically creating a new cluster because we need these for the embeddings. So in fact, like I think we can simply just go ahead and copy at least this part because this is going to be used for us to actually connect to our Couchbase cluster, right? So similar to what we did the last time. And then what we'll also just go ahead and define is our vector store. So in this case, we'll just do a const Couchbase vector store in which we will pass our so in this case, like what we are going to be doing is that we are going to be passing our documents and our embeddings, right? So in this case, like what we'll do is we'll just wait for it to initialize. So we'll just basically do a Couchbase vector store, and what we'll wait for it to initialize. So initialize. Okay, perfect. And let's see if there's something wrong that we might have not have used it. Let's see if we have imported it. Oh, so we have imported it. Perfect. So just see this issue over here. Let's see why it's not used. So the declaration is there. I just want to confirm. Oh, I think we copied these 2 times. My bad. That was the reason. Okay, that should be fine. So now the Couchbase vector store. Oh, this is the same. That's a bit strange. Why it's giving this, throwing this issue. Probably if we'll just complete this. So in this case, like we are going to be basically passing our embeddings and the embeddings that we generate, and also our Couchbase config. So we'll just quickly pass both of these. So okay, so this should be fine. And we will just close this out. But we're still getting this issue.
I think it's because it's the exact same name of your variables, the name of
Oh
your
yeah,
object.
yeah. My bad.
You just need to lowercase that stuff, and it should be fine.
Yeah, should be fine.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That is the same variable. Yeah, that's a rookie mistake. Okay, and now finally, what we'll also do is that once we have defined our vector store, we will also just ensure that yeah, I think like now we are good to go. So we can start to actually define our retriever step. So in this case, like what we'll do is that we'll define our retriever. So in this case, this is the retriever which will be used to actually retrieve the documents that we want to find, which are related to our input prompt that we have given to it. So in this case, we can use this Couchbase vector store, and there is a dedicated method which is as retriever. So this allows us to retrieve the document which will be used. So in this case, let's go ahead and define. So in this case, like what we expect, so we will basically have to define a callback that based on the handling of the retrieval. So that like basically what we are going to be doing is that when we call this retriever, we want to ensure that whatever documents that we receive are fetched from our retrieval step, and then we store them inside of the retriever, so that when we pass that inside of our RAG chain, then we can just pass that retriever object, and it is containing that array of all of the related documents that it is able to fetch from our vector search that we did as part of our vector store. So over here, this is where like now we'll define our retrieval step, and I think this is probably, oh my bad. So I'll use this Couchbase vector store. So this is our function. I think this probably a mistake, and I think retrieval. Let's see if we have the like. Let's quickly double check. Couchbase as retriever. Yes. So we should use the retriever over here. I just want to, okay, perfect, as retriever. But this might be in Python. So you want to specifically look at the TypeScript one. Let's see. So we can look over here. So we might, okay. This should be fine. But we are getting this minor issue right now, which does not exist. Do you think it's an issue with the spelling? Oh yeah, I think it should be I, right? Okay, perfect. So that should be, yeah, I think it's TRI.
You don't have completion on that? I thought you had completion on.
Yeah, I think that's probably because I ran out of the completion, so that might be the reason, but it should be fine. So we have defined a retriever, and over here, basically what we have to define is essentially a callback. So we are defining this callback so that we'll now wait for it to actually handle the retrieving. So basically, we will also define a function where it handles the entire retrieval for us, and then based on that, we will fetch the list of documents which it has retrieved. So we are just defining a callback over here. In which case, like what we'll do is that within this callback, what we want to do is we want to define a function for handling our retrieval. So we'll define a function to handle our retrieval step. So we'll like, let's say we can say that it's going to be handling this retrieval end, and which we'll pass our documents, which it will basically fetch. And here, like, we'll basically define that, okay, we want to basically extract all of the retrieved documents, which we are going to be fetching from our retriever, right? Because that's what we want to show on the front end. And so this is basically the step where we will now fetch all of those documents and pass those as an array to our retriever. So this is like that particular step where we pass the retriever. Okay.
So hold on. So we are past time. So do you think we'll
Okay.
continue that next time, or
Probably yes, we might just have to,
yes?
because I think the only final step now is to actually go and complete our output chain, like the
Yeah.
dedicated RAG chain. So I think like we should be able to complete it the next time. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I guess we can stop that for today.
Yeah.
I don't think we have any other question really. So next time, we build the chain, the whole chain, the retriever.
Exactly.
We need
Yeah.
to set up the bucket scopes and collection.
Yeah.
And
So
we
the
can,
backend scopes are already connected, because that's happening
okay.
pretty much like we are already connected, because that happened with our ingestion step that we had conducted. So now we are pretty much left with the actual final conversation chain, which will be used to actually answer the questions. Because of course,
Right.
like, we have to create that entire chain where we are first sending in the user request, and we also have to maintain that entire history. So what we have been able to accomplish is at least define the structure of the response that we are getting from the AI, right? From the LLM in our RAG chain. So the only thing now left is to define our output chain and finally like complete this retrieval step.
All right, sounds great. Thank you so much, Shive. So we'll be back next week, same time, same day. So Tuesday, 4 p.m. CET, which is probably like 10 a.m. Eastern time. What time is it in India right now, in Bangalore?
So yeah, right now it is 8:30 p.m.
Right, so 7:30 p.m. In Bangalore.
And bro, I think like if it's possible, we can probably do another stream on Thursday, probably just to close out this project and also deploy it.
This Thursday, you mean? Yeah, I mean, you can definitely do something this Thursday. There's no question. So yeah, let's meet everybody else on Thursday. So just everybody come back on Thursday, and then we'll finish this. And then next week on Tuesday, which was somewhat the plan already today, we'll start another series with a different framework, still about AI, still about the good stuff that you can do with RAG, but this time offline, fully like disconnected offline mobile. Cool, awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Shive, and we'll see you on Thursday.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goodbye. Cheers.
Goodbye.